Greetings, salutations to Safe to Serve International and first-time viewers. Welcome to this midday power surge. I'm your host, Andrew Henriquez. I want to take this time to give you a quick announcement. This weekend is going to be a very solemn, great weekend. We have the baptismal service planned on the Lord's Sabbath. It is an opportune time to actually launch this page or channel here on YouTube. You're already familiar with Prophesy Again TV. And now I'm going to introduce Prophesy Again clips. That's where we're actually streaming Prophesy Again clips. To find it, go to the homepage on Prophesy Again TV. You look below. On the first line, you'll see recommended channels. You'll see Prophesy Again clips. Simply click that link, that button, that logo, and also subscribe. Throughout this week into this weekend, we will be streaming several services. Because we are prepping for the coming Sabbath and the baptism, things are fluid around here, so we won't possibly meet all the time schedules, but we'll try our best to be on time. So again, Prophesy Again clips, go ahead and click and subscribe. And of course, share the word, pass it along so others can also subscribe, be knowledgeable of what's happening from now into this weekend, as well as to stay on top of the current events as they are fulfilling end-time prophecies with the work of preparation. With that being said, let's get right into it. I want to begin by focusing on what's transpiring in New York City. These are signs of the last days, not only in New York City, but also on the West Coast. Not only on the West Coast, but also in other countries. We're now seeing the implementation of a police state. And this is going to tremendously, extremely affect God's commandment-keeping people in the last days. God's word says in Luke 21, verse 20 through verse 23, that when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, underscore armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Understand that. And those who are in the cities, flee to the mountains. These be days of vengeance. A great crisis is going to ensue. With that being said, the headline reads, is the U.S. becoming a police state? If that is the case, we're now seeing a soft implementation of a police state. If that is now transpiring, the great question is, why? What has led to this? In the book Ministry of Healing, page 323, we are told that we must study from cause to effect. From cause to effect. In Proverbs 26 and verse 2, the Bible says, the curse causeless will not come. If there's a curse, there has to be a cause. Job 29 and verse 16 says, the cause which I knew not, I searched out. Headline says, is the U.S. becoming a police state? If so, what has led to this? I'm going to cover two and one. The first point is the same individuals, civil leaders, who are rolling out policies that are leading into a police state, even martial law, are the same politicians that wrote out policies that has led to the need for more armies, National Guard surrounding the residents, having checkpoints, searching people's bags. Where are your rights? Your rights have been suppressed. Take a look at this. Defund New York Police Department. Whose policy was this? defund the police. There it is. Activists, states, activists, and city leaders want to cut $1 billion from the police force's budget. Then Mayor Eric Adams announces sweeping budget cuts that would drop number of police officers to the lowest since 1990s. His policies led to this. And may I add, if another mayor or another governor should take the helm of New York City and New York State, the same policies are going to be enacted because they are simply the puppets. The masters are the ones writing the policies. And these politicians, mayors and governors, are beholding to them. Here it is. New York NYPD to have only 29,000 cops by 2025 due to new NYC budget cuts. Take a listen.
Crime in the city is up. NYPD releasing new data today showing an increase in just about every category, including shootings.
4 people.
Crime is up. Just as they defunded the police, crime is now increasing. Cause to effect. That's what we need to do. Clip 2.
NYPD numbers released today show shooting incidents are up more than 16% compared with the same period last year. Transit crimes have increased more than 50%, and overall crime is up more than 36%, driven by large increases in grand larceny auto, robberies, and burglaries.
Now, what time period is this? If you looked at the years in that clip, you would see it's the same time period of the pestilence 19 pandemic. Whose policies led to that? How many people lost their businesses, lost their jobs, poverty, and now people are stealing. People are committing crimes. They create the crises and then roll out the policies that are going to be draconian. Clip 3.
The move comes after a more than 46% spike in major crimes in the city's transit system in January compared to 2023.
And ever since they began to defund the police and they manufactured and released on the population the pestilence 19, it says now things have gotten worse. Headline says, we have already defunded the police. Pardon me. And things have gotten worse, it says. Worse. And remember, they're telling us that China is the model. What's happening in China? In China, there's a police state. In China, a surveillance state. China is the model.
I respect China's achievements, which are tremendous over the last over 40 years. I think it's a role model for many countries.
Yeah, China is the model. There it is. China has presently a police state. China, a surveillance state. March 5th, 2024. China is the model. Even the Prime Minister of Canada, who does he praise? He says China is the model. I have no time for that video clip. Move on. Even President Biden has stated China is the model. Let me bypass that clip also. Yes, the Pope of Rome is telling us China is the model, the best implementer of the Roman Catholic common good, which will lead to a totalitarian state. Watch now. As a result of the pandemic, as a result of defunding the police force, now President Biden is under attack. He's under duress. And now he's saying, mayors, governors, spend the money, strengthen the police force, hire new officers. Watch this. There it is, friends. Biden urges cities to spend money on police to prevent crime. Do it quickly. Spend the money now. Governors, mayors.
Tonight, facing rising crime across the country, President Biden's under pressure to do more.
The answer is not to defund the police. The answer is to fund the police.
Today, urging cities and states to use unspent COVID economic relief to pay for crime prevention programs and to hire officers.
Spend this money now. Do it quickly before the summer when crime rates typically surge.
But nationwide, crime has already been surging since the start of the pandemic. And just last year, many major American cities, from Austin to Indianapolis, set their all-time records for murder.
Since the time of the pandemic, they create the crises, number one. And number two, defund the police. The third one I'm going to address now is simply that the lawmakers, as well as the judges, have been too easy on criminals. They commit crimes, they get a slap on the wrist, and they're back into the public to create more crimes. They create the policies that lead to more crimes. And the people now, the innocent people, are now afraid, and they will accept anything for security, even a police state. For example, do you remember September 11, 2001? What happened? It was the government who brought on that crisis, and the people now have been fearful, and they're begging for security. And they're willing to give up their rights. All of it. Just to have security is the same policy and principle, but with different players. It's very clear what's happening. Take a look at this, friends. It's what we call the Hegelian dialectic. Create the problem. I gave you 3 of them. And the people are now suffering. Crime is increasing. And now they say, how can we have security? And the government leaders step in and now they say, we must put more police on the streets. We need checkpoints. Show us your papers. Open your bags. Stop and frisk going on. Where's your rights? Where is your constitutional rights? Watch this. The third policy led to crime. Watch this. Here it is.
The White House says at least $10 billion have already been committed for public safety programs, but law enforcement leaders say there are other key factors like bail reform laws and criticism that progressive prosecutors are going easy on criminals.
A revolving door policy does not work for public safety. We're letting them back out the same day. We're not safer. In fact, we're less safe under those circumstances.
Yeah. Do you see it now? They're going easy on criminals. David in the comment section writes, they are creating the atmosphere for lawlessness, and the people will cry out for any policy just to get security, even if those policies trample upon their liberties. Have you ever heard this term, crime of poverty, as a reason to commit crime? Yes. People are now saying, because we are poor, we can commit crime. That's the law of the land, even in New York City. Watch this. Headline, crime of poverty is being used as an excuse in devastating New York's small businesses. 2023 that came out. So whose policies led to crime of poverty being used as an excuse? The same governor and the same mayor. Watch this. Watch the video clip.
Brazen shoplifters wreaking havoc on retailers. They're cleaning out shelves in broad daylight, and the stores seem pretty much helpless to stop it. Health and beauty retailers seem to be a popular target, and it's a big reason why you're seeing more and more products under lock and key. Sharon Crowley takes a closer look at what's behind the surge in shoplifting.
This is right, guys. Latina Brown took this cell phone video inside the drugstore near her home in the Bronx.
In the Bronx. Enough of that. In the Bronx. Not only in New York City, but crime of poverty being used as an excuse. I'm poor, so I can steal. I'm poor, so I can commit crimes. Watch this, my friends. San Francisco, West Coast. You can steal. Just make sure the amount of what you steal, the items, do not tally or total more than $1,000.
Call 911. Wow.
Walgreens.
Enough. Whose policy is that? Do you remember the movie called The Purge? One night of lawlessness. Any crime can be committed. Any crime, even murder, in one night. The first purge, in one night, any crime can be committed. Well, in that movie, which we call predictive programming, it's lawlessness, misdemeanors, felony, murder in one night. We are seeing it being rolled out softly. Not one night, every day commit crimes. Start with misdemeanors, then felonies, and the people will beg for a surveillance state. They'll beg for a police state, beg for martial law, do whatever to keep us safe. Listen.
It would excuse and dismiss, in essence, effectively legalize almost all misdemeanor crimes committed in Seattle by people who show either symptoms of addiction with no medical diagnosis necessary, symptoms of a mental disorder, or poverty, that they committed the offense to meet an immediate basic need. In other words, if someone stole merchandise to sell for cash to get food, clothes, rent money, whatever, they could not be convicted.
If you don't feel
mercy, whose policy is that? Beloved, in this section, I'm going to connect the governor and the mayor of New York City with the Pope of Rome. Whose policy is this? If I'm poor, I can steal. If I'm poor, I can commit crimes. Whose policy is this? Not only in New York, they're in San Francisco, also in Seattle, Washington, Northwest. Here it is, friends. It's the policy of the Pope of Rome. That's it. The man of lawlessness. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 and verse 4. The man of sin, the son of perdition. You are poor, you can steal. You're poor, you can commit crime. Not only violating the 8th commandment of God's 10 commandments, but then violate the 4th commandment of God's 10 commandments, the 7th day Sabbath, and honor Sunday, the first day of the week. There it is. It's not accidental now. Mayor Adams is calling for church and state union. And what church does he promote, Mayor Adams? The Roman Catholic Church? Listen, church and state union.
State is the body, church is the heart. You take the heart out of the body dies. I can't separate my belief because I'm an elected official. When I walk with God. When I talk with God. When I put policies in place, I put them in with a God-like approach to them.
When you put,
that's who I am.
It sounds good. When I put policies in place, defund the police. When I put policy in place, if you're poor, you can steal. If you're poor, you can commit crime. You are putting policies in place that have been originated with popery, Jesuits, the man of sin. There it is, my friends. There it is. There it is. Right there at the Roman Catholic Church, Mayor Adams. He's going to make sure he's in attendance at midnight mass. That's it. That is the connecting link. Well, let's move on. There it is now. And what does popery despise? The U.S. Constitution and the freedoms enshrined therein. At this point, let me address Governor Kathy Hochul. Here it is, friends. She is now sending the National Guard to New York City subways to combat ongoing crime. May I ask you a question? Whose policies led to the crimes? I don't need to repeat myself. In the aforementioned points, I confirm that. Here it is. Watch.
Today, New York Governor Kathy Hochul announced new efforts to fight rising crime in New York City's subway system, which is up 13%, and that's just since last year. So Hochul is deploying 1,000 state personnel from the MTA, state police, even the National Guard to help the city. Andrew Siff with NBC News New York spoke with commuters about the safety improvements.
Mm-hmm. And what would the National Guard do once they are deployed? They will establish checkpoints. Yes, checkpoints. And also say every 2 persons, go over there, let those guard men check your bags, search your bags. Every 3 persons, every 4th person, every 7th person, and so on. What? So where is the warrant? You mean you could simply search me? Where's the warrant? Where's my right? Oh, you have no right. Have you not heard? We're in a crisis in New York City. Crimes are increasing. Flee these wicked cities. Do you remember September 11th, 2001? Here it is. Governor Kathy Hochul speak.
I'm redeploying nearly 1,000 members of the New York State Police, MTA Police, and MTA National Guard to conduct bag checks in the city's busiest transit stations. You'll start seeing them at the tables, making sure that weapons are not being brought in, working in concert with our New York State Police, as well as our NYPD. Because no one heading to their job or to visit family or to go to a doctor appointment should worry that the person sitting next to them possesses a deadly weapon.
Stop right there. Check bags. Search all bags to find weapons. This man actually said in public, a leading person in New York City, the criminals he know do not carry their guns in bags. Watch this.
They're there as a visible deterrent. Here are government people in army uniforms with, machine guns. But that's about all they can do. They'll do the bag checks. Now, why are the bag checks useful? They may come up with a gun in a bag, a knife in a bag for someone who wasn't expecting to get caught in a bag check. But most of the crooks I know don't carry their gun or their knife in their bag.
That's John Miller, Chief Law Enforcement and Intelligence Analyst. Most criminals he knows do not carry guns in bags. So why have checkpoints? National Guard. You see, friends, now they have a justification to enact what they have already planned to roll out. A police state, martial law, take away your rights. Clip 2.
So that'll be useful, but...
Can the National Guard do police work? No, they can't. So why roll them out?
So that'll be useful, but they're not going to be able to chase criminals. They're not going to be making arrests. If somebody runs up to them and said, I just got robbed and he went that way, they're probably not going to chase him because if they catch him, they don't know what to do and they don't really know the system. So a lot of this is the scarecrow effect, but it might make some people feel better and make some people feel apprehensive seeing soldiers in the subway.
Right.
So it's a placebo effect. And now they are actually allowing New Yorkers to accept gradually the police state. Give up your rights. Watch this. There it is.
When I'm on the subway system and I speak with riders, they say, Eric, nothing makes us feel safer than seeing that officer at the token booth, walking through the system, walking through the trains.
Mayor Adams said not only will the manpower continue, but bag checks will be back at major transit hubs within the week.
Yeah, so get them accustomed to a police state. Softly, then roughly later on. Friends, take a look at what you're seeing here. Imagine if you had come down the escalator and someone did this to you, how would you feel? Watch this. Now, what's in her bag? Look at the woman's expression. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Huh? Watch this. Just remember, China is a model. Remember, China is the model. Communism. David writes, common good to communism. China is the model. China is the model. Pardon me. Diana writes in the chat, like the frog in the pan of water that gradually comes to a boil. And we want to continue to reside in these wicked cities? This woman said, I welcome this type of policing, police state. No longer do I have to look over my shoulders.
Lately, I don't feel that safe.
Tricia Alexander said her commute hasn't felt great lately, but seeing police back on the platform helps. What does that do for your state of mind?
It makes me feel safe. Now I feel like I got to look around my back all the time.
Bring it on. Some folks may say, well, I have nothing to hide, so I will accept the police state. Hear what Edward Snowden stated on that point, based on a principle.
Saying that you don't care about privacy because you have nothing to hide is no different than saying you don't care about freedom of speech because you have nothing to say.
What a statement. What a statement. Do you remember the checkpoints during the COVID-19 pandemic? Here is Mayor Adams. Big Brother is protecting you. Big Brother, it's all about surveillance. Governor Hochul, Big Brother is watching you. It's all about surveillance. And these came out before the soft police state that they're now rolling out. A surveillance state. China is the model. Look at that. They say if you have too many people gathering in your backyard, your private residence, they will send the drones over your backyard. If someone calls in to report you have too many folks in your backyard, they will come to surveil. Watch this.
Large gatherings in the city.
If a caller states there's a large crowd, large party.
If a caller says what?
Large gatherings in the city.
If a caller states there's a large crowd, large party in the backyards, we're going to be utilizing our assets to go up, to go check on the party.
That's your backyard. So you have no privacy in your own yard, home. You have no privacy, rights, I should say, rights in the public. No privacy in your house, your home, and no rights in public. You can't just stop people and search them, open your bag. Where is the suspicion? Where's the warrant? Selma in the chat writes, flee the cities 3 times. Flee the cities. Flee the cities. And remember, Governor Hochul actually said, we have the right to put you in a quarantine camp. Concentration camp? So from police state, surveillance state, to a concentration camp? Listen.
So you challenge this. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say we were having oral arguments in front of the judge last year at the trial court level, and the judge asked the Attorney General's office, he said, okay, let's say you take a family and let's say you put them into isolation or quarantine in a facility somewhere, like a hospital, let's say. once they're in quarantine, how do they get out?
And what was their answer?
Yeah, well, there was a nice long pause as the Attorney General's representative thought about it. And then finally he said, well, I guess they could hire a lawyer and they could sue us.
Oh my gosh. That was their answer. It was hire an attorney and sue us to get out.
That was the answer. Yep. And the judge said, he said, well, isn't that kind of a lengthy and expensive process? I mean, you know, look, I mean, lawsuits.
Never mind. China is the model, and that is the actual process. Governor Hochul says that they can detain you without due process. Beloved, if you only heard on the news the subway crimes and the soft rolling out of a police state, for some people, they would be alarmed. For others, there was nothing to it. We have nothing to hide. But when you see all these things connected, you see the big picture. It's an agenda. It's communism, totalitarianism, it's tyranny. And they're simply testing to see what the outcry is going to be, if any. Watch this. New York City sets up quarantine checkpoints, not for only footmen, pedestrians. What about drivers? Watch this. There it is for drivers.
So today, de Blasio announced that he plans to encircle the entire city with military-style checkpoints, not to stop violent criminals, but to prevent people from visiting from other places. There was no public discussion of this ahead of time. There was no debate. De Blasio just decreed it.
Clip 2, stay right there.
So shut up and show us your papers, peasant.
That's it. Notice, that was for motorists. Checkpoints in a so-called crisis. Subway crimes, crisis. Search everybody. Shut up and show me your bag. Shut up and show me your papers. Where's the warrant? For what suspicion? Come on now. Where are my rights? There it is, friends. The Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Listen.
And the decay. So in a few days, New York will begin following and harassing travelers. They're going to text and call you if you plan to travel. And if you don't respond, city workers may come to your home in person. Listen to a man called Ted Long explain the plan. He runs something called the Test and Trace Corps in New York.
Tomorrow, we're going to be deploying teams to Penn Station to stop travelers to ensure that they've completed the travel form. We've made more than 86,000 phone calls to travelers coming into New York City from the designated high-risk states. And we've sent more than 20,000 text messages to date. And if we can't get through to you on the phone, we've deployed teams that are now knocking on your door to check in with you.
Penn Station. Penn Station. Anybody who knows Penn Station, I believe 34th Street, New York City, Subway again. Subway. It's all connected. And people are now saying, in order for our families to have a chance of survival, we are taking our families to relocate from New York City. This is a part of the video clip series. Watch this.
Crime is the main driver of concern among young voters, with a quarter strongly agreeing their family would have a better future if they left New York City permanently. And out of multiple categories like inflation, homelessness, and education, almost half say crime is the most important issue living in New York City.
Leave the wicked cities permanently. What is God saying to us? In the book, volume 9, as I close, page 8 to 9. Expect in the last days an epidemic of crime. We are seeing it now. Nothing is accidental. Volume 9, page 11. Thefts, murders are committed on every hand. Signs of the last days. Men are possessed of demons. In the book, Country Living, page 5. What are we told? It's time for God's people to flee these wicked cities, because crime will be prevalent as a sign of the last days. Adventist Home, page 141, clearly says, get out, get ready for the last days. And now I'm going to say, don't say, well, I don't have the means. Make sure you're being converted. At the opportune time, God's way, God's time, I should say, God will connect you with the family. God places the solitary in families. That's Bible promise. Amen to that. The fifth key, assisting someone else. And remember, a time is going to come. Those who desire to leave will not be able to leave because they refused to heed the warnings of God. Friends, I leave it there. I leave it there. I leave it there for now. Luke 21, when you see that we're being surrounded, it's time to flee. Flee to the mountains. Conversion, the first and the fifth keys of the 5 keys of survival. By God's grace, as I said in my opening remarks, we'll be streaming here on Prophesy Again clips tomorrow all the way through this weekend. Opportune time to launch this channel. It's right below on the homepage of Prophesy Again TV. Subscribe, share, and by God's grace, I will see you tomorrow. The Lord is soon to come. May we find ourselves prepared and getting others prepared, and the protest continues.